So let me tell you the story about what got me into chiropractic. In 2009, I was about a week away from graduating from undergraduate school, and I was set to go on to chiropractic school in just a few weeks. Now, I came home for the weekend and I decided to go out downtown in Pittsburgh with some of my friends, and I was a designated driver for the night, but I didn't know that at the end of the night, my buddies were going to decide to get into a little scuffle with some people on the streets. So I was trying to break up the fights. We were about to leave and head home, and somebody came out of nowhere and just hit me right upside the face, spun me around, and I fell down on the pavement and was knocked out, bleeding out on the streets of Pittsburgh. Fortunately for me, there was an ambulance right down the street that was able to pick me up and rush me down to Mercy Hospital that night. My parents, they got a phone call. My dad always said, nothing good ever happens after midnight. Sure enough, this was an instance where that was true. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they get a phone call. They wake up out of a dead sleep and they're like, what's going on? They were getting a call from the hospital telling them to rush down to the hospital because their son might not make it through the night. So my parents got dressed, rushed out, and got to the hospital as soon as possible to be able to find out what my diagnosis was. So I was diagnosed with a subdural hematoma, which is more or less brain damage. I had a bruised spinal cord and a partial fracture to my lower cervical spine, or my lower neck. I had no ability to be able to use my arms and hands or my legs. I remember very distinctly not being able to move myself from one hospital bed to the next. I was in intensive care for 3 days, living off of a morphine drip just to try to numb out some of the pain. After 3 days, I started to regain just a little bit of function, enough for them to be able to release me from the hospital with the news that if things get worse, if I start getting headaches, if I start failing tests, that I needed to come back immediately because this condition could lead to mental retardation or even worse, death. So I went on my journey, and again, a few weeks later, I enrolled into chiropractic school. And I knew at the time that chiropractic was great for headaches, neck pain, range of motion. And so I started going to the chiropractor and I started getting adjusted. And all I was trying to do was be able to get motion back in my neck, because when I left from the hospital, they put a soft collar on my neck. And one of the things that happened when I bruised my spinal cord is that I had a hypersensitivity reaction. When I took showers, it felt like knives were stabbing into my skin, and I had a severe loss in motor function in my hands. I remember going to the gym and trying to pick up dumbbells, just 10-pounders, and I couldn't keep them in my hands. They kept trying to slide out. So I started getting adjusted, increased my range of motion, but then my hands started to come back to life. I started being able to work out again. I started being able to live that life that I had before. Being a former college athlete, having all of that taken away from me was very hurtful to my self-esteem, honestly. Then to be sitting on my parents' couch with my parents using their vacation days to stay home and take care of their son, it made me very upset. And so that's why I started rehabbing myself with getting adjusted, and the symptoms started to go away. I was so excited. And again, that transition between that undergraduate school and chiropractic school was just a little while, but I had the symptoms go away, and when symptoms go away, what are most people trained to do? Out of sight, out of mind. They forget about them. And of course, I fell into that same category. I thought I was fixed. I thought I was healed. Nope. When I got into chiropractic school, they send you into student clinic. And so you have students who are trying to be chiropractors and getting their credentials all ready to go. And I remember this doc, Dr. Neal, running a neurological pinwheel on my arm, which is a very sharp piece of plastic. And I couldn't feel it. It just felt like just a dull piece of metal just dragging on my skin. So he runs out and goes and gets his supervising doc, who had a neurology diplomate, which is a very high accolade to have. So this doctor comes in, and I still remember he told me to close my eyes, and he put a cold piece of metal and a chapstick container in my hands with my eyes closed, and he said, "Which one is colder?" And I said, "The chapstick container." And so this doc told me I needed to drop out of chiropractic school immediately and go and get a $250,000 spinal cord surgery, and I should save my money because I'm not going to be able to practice chiropractic. So I was frustrated. Chiropractic got me to be able to function again, but why didn't it stick? Why didn't the results stay? And so I spent my chiropractic career when I was in chiropractic school learning different techniques to be able to not only correct damage to the spine, but also be able to keep the results that patients should get. You know, if we're paying good money to get good treatment, we should have that treatment last. And so that's what we do in our office. It's called corrective care chiropractic. If you have any abnormal curvatures in the spine, we want to make sure we analyze them, because we can adjust until the symptoms go away. But if you still have poor posture, the symptoms will always come back on you. So I never want that to happen to anybody else. So that's why I am always more than willing to speak about my story and what got me into chiropractic, so that way people don't have to suffer through the ups and downs that I went through. And to know, yes, I'm human, but I've been down in the darkest pits. I mean, when I was on a morphine drip, sent home, I couldn't use my arms or my legs. I had everything taken away from me. I couldn't even take care of myself. And now I'm taking care of hundreds of patients because I have the power of my hands again, and I can speak and I can walk and I can do all the things that I was able to do before, all because of chiropractic.